He hired a nanny, expecting discipline. But everything changed. The constant hum of the city buzzed outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Mason Cole's penthouse, a high-rise fortress in the heart of Manhattan that offered both a view and a kind of isolation. The world below glittered with ambition, flashing lights, and a restlessness that never seemed to sleep. It was a world that Mason had mastered. Clean, contained, predictable. From his perch above it all, life felt manageable. He looked at his reflection in the darkened glass, cold, calculated eyes, a jaw carved from discipline, his charcoal gray suit tailored with the kind of precision that spoke of control, not vanity. Everything about him was deliberate. Every detail of his life choreographed to prevent surprises, prevent messes, especially emotional ones. Behind him, his home mirrored that same intention. Every book on the shelf aligned, every painting perfectly centered. There was no clutter, no noise, no disorder. He turned from the window and made his way back to the desk at the center of his office. Reports blinked to life on his tablet. Deadlines, contracts, international calls queued up for the next morning. There was always more to control. Except one thing. A soft, hesitant sound pulled his attention to the hallway. There, peeking around the corner in her fleece pajamas, stood a small figure clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. Hazel eyes peeked out from beneath a curtain of straight chestnut hair. Daddy. His daughter, Delilah, 6 years old, quiet, careful, and always watching. You're supposed to be asleep, Mason said, voice neutral, his eyes flicking to his watch. It was past 10. I couldn't sleep. He sighed. You'll be tired tomorrow. Delilah nodded solemnly and padded back to her room without protest. Just like always. No arguments. No fuss. Just obedience. He told himself that was good. That structure created strength. That the strictness he'd built his life on would shape her the same way it had shaped him. But even as he returned to his work, the stillness of the apartment pressed harder on his chest. The next day began with the usual rhythm. Early meetings, brisk emails, a breakfast that was more of a scheduled check-in than a meal. At the office, his assistant, Lauren, walked beside him rattling off calendar items until one word caught his attention. Nanny interviews. This afternoon. You're long overdue, Mason. He grunted. It was true. The last one hadn't lasted long. Too soft. Too emotional. Too eager to play. He needed structure. Discipline. No exceptions. I've shortlisted someone, Lauren added. She comes highly recommended and is available immediately. He didn't respond. He just nodded once. Fine, as long as she wasn't sentimental. That evening, he arrived home under a sky fading into lavender and steel. He loosened his tie, moving through the quiet apartment, noting every object exactly where he left it. Then came the chime, the nanny. He pressed the panel to unlock the door and adjusted his cuff as he walked toward the entrance, mentally preparing for a stiff handshake, a bland resume, and another week of evaluations. But when the door swung open, the script slipped. She stood there framed in soft amber light. Young, late 20s maybe, warm, almond-toned skin and a cascade of dark curls that fell over her shoulders. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a breezy linen blouse. Her smile was wide, unguarded. I'm Naomi. He blinked. You're not who I hired. She laughed, an easy sound that irritated him instantly. Lauren said you needed someone. So here I am. His jaw tensed. My assistant overstepped. Naomi's eyes didn't waver. Or maybe she saw something you didn't. Before he could reply, a small voice chimed in from behind. Are you my new nanny? Delilah. Barefoot, stuffed rabbit in hand, eyes fixed on Naomi. Naomi crouched. That's me. And you must be Delilah. Delilah nodded. Mason crossed his arms. He didn't like this. He didn't like being unprepared. But the week had been long. 1 week, he said. No distractions. No nonsense. Naomi's smile softened. 1 week. It was supposed to be temporary. But what followed wasn't chaos. It wasn't rebellion. It was worse. It was something warm. Naomi moved through the house like she belonged. She followed instructions, met every deadline, enforced every rule. But she also danced. She sang along to silly songs. She let Delilah draw with crayons at the table. She laughed in the kitchen. Mason tried to ignore it, until one evening he came home early to retrieve a document and stopped cold. The living room had transformed. A blanket fort stretched across the floor. Delilah lay on her stomach, crayons scattered, a picture held up to Naomi. They were laughing, really laughing. Mason hadn't heard that sound in years. That night, the sound haunted him as he stared at his unopened laptop. Something cracked inside, though he wouldn't admit it. The next few days blurred. Naomi kept showing up on time. She followed the routine, but she brought light, and Delilah started to change. She told stories at breakfast. She smiled more. She even hugged Naomi goodbye. Mason told himself it didn't matter. Until the day he overheard a conversation in the kitchen. Naomi's voice, low but clear. People like me don't always get to belong in places like this. Delilah, why not? Because not everyone thinks we should. He felt the breath leave his chest. He hadn't said it. Not aloud. But maybe he had believed it. The walls he built weren't just to keep chaos out. They had kept people like Naomi out too. And now his daughter was drawing pictures with Naomi in them. Stick figures with smiling faces. Her, Naomi, and him. And then came the cake. Delilah, grinning ear to ear, flowers smudged across her cheeks, presented a lopsided chocolate cake with candles at odd angles. Mason hadn't asked for it. He hadn't approved it. This is a mess, he snapped. Delilah's face fell. I just wanted you to smile. The silence afterward was deafening. Naomi said nothing. She just turned, wiping her hands. I'll pack. And then she was gone. The apartment grew colder. Delilah's drawings disappeared. Her smile faded. She no longer hummed or danced or told him about her day. She became quiet. Too quiet. Just like before. Until the night Delilah fell ill. Fever. Shaking. Eyes glassy with tears. Miss Naomi, she whimpered. Mason panicked. He couldn't find a thermometer. Couldn't remember what medicine to use. So he called. She came. No hesitation. No biternis. Naomi knelt beside Delilah's bed, her touch calm, her voice steady. Mason stood in the doorway, helpless, watching. She'll be okay, Naomi said softly. And in that moment, something shifted. Naomi stayed until morning. And when she left, Mason realized he didn't want her to go. Not again. The next day, he called her. I need to talk, he said. They met at the park, the one Delilah liked. When Naomi arrived, Delilah ran to her, arms flung wide. Mason watched them embrace. He took a breath. I was wrong, he said. I thought rules would protect her. But I see now, she didn't need rules. She needed you. We both did. Naomi didn't reply right away. She just looked at him, then nodded. Okay. From that moment forward, everything changed. Spring arrived. Slowly. Softly. And Mason noticed. The flowers. The sun. The laughter. Delilah laughed again. They went to the park together. Baked cookies. Danced in the hallway. Laughed over burnt toast. And at night, when Delilah asked, Will Miss Naomi stay forever? Naomi smiled. I'll stay as long as you'll have me. Mason didn't need to say anything. Naomi already knew. What they had wasn't just a household. It was a family.